Welcome to Psychic Bent. My name is Carrie.
And I'm Kim. We are two sisters wanting to help other psychics learn and grow in their abilities and to help educate about spirits, angels, and everything psychic. Welcome back to Psychic Bent. Today's episode is the Clairs Part 3 Claircognizance. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Why don't we move on to our next Clair, which is Claircognizance, and that basically is clear knowing. It's not connected to any of the senses, so, smells, hearing, seeing doesn't have any bearing on claircognizance. Because like clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentient, those are all connected to, sight, sound, psychic touch, psychic sensations. But this is a connection with your inner self. I guess you could call it a light bulb moments, when you have those light bulb moments like, oh, this, oh, and you just know. I have a story to kind of give an example. Hopefully it's a good example. I have a friend who was going to Colorado with a bunch of her friends to a live concert, and this was a bucket list for her. She'd always wanted to go to this particular venue to see, and her favorite band was going, and they just kind of like last minute pulled the trigger, we're going. So they were going in October, so she, was going to go and tell me, and she's telling me all the places she's going. And I said, oh, excuse me, you're right by the Stanley Hotel. And she was, the Stanley Hotel? I said, yes, that's where they filmed The Shining.
Yes.
I said, that hotel is built on quartz and limestone. It is a haunted hotel. That is, people travel from all over the world to stay at the Stanley Hotel. You guys have to go. Just go and visit it and explore or take a tour. You're there. You got to do it. It may not be your bucket list. And so she mentioned it to her friends, and one person was like, oh my gosh, we got to do it. So they went. And they had a really good time on their trip. And when she came back a couple weeks later, she goes, hey, I want to show you a picture. I said, okay. And she shows me a picture that's a statue in front of the Stanley Hotel, and then the hotel's behind it. And I'm looking at it. I'm looking at her, and I said, well, I didn't know what I was supposed to do. She showed me a picture. I said, well, I get nothing off the statue. She goes, no, do you see the ghost? I went, oh, yeah. And I, took my finger and thumb and expanded the picture. And yeah, right there. It's in that room. And she's like, how did you do that? You just did that. I'm like, well, once she told me what I was supposed to be doing, I just knew. Oh, the ghost is in this window. That's what, yeah, right here. And it was a woman. Once you really zoomed the picture up, you could tell it was a woman and everything. And she's like, well, my friend was looking, her friend was really hoping to get a picture of a ghost. So when she finally found it, she was all excited, and my friend's like, well, let me show it to Carrie because she's psychic and let's see what she gets off it. Just like, oh, I was the guinea pig. She wanted to see if I could find it without going window by window by window. And so that was a good example of claircognizance. I just knew where it was once I knew what I was supposed to do.
Right.
So that was definitely a light bulb moment.
I can see that.
Yes. So with claircognizance, it was funny, I have to tell you this. And this particular friend is afraid of ghosts. And I work with her, and it's so funny because someone is always seeing a ghost, and she has it. There's two employees that haven't seen the ghost. One desperately wants to see one, and I don't know why they're not showing themselves to her, because she's into the macabre. She's like wanting this ghost thing to really happen. And then the other one is this other friend. She's just afraid that if she sees a ghost, she's going to fall over. So I think they're not showing themselves to her because she's not receptive of it. She's not ready to see one. But I just thought that was funny. So claircognizance, as I went down that rabbit hole, you receive certain specific details with someone in spirit. So they're going to tell you something very specific, on the situation. It's very random. It's not like I'm going to dial this up and call and get this message. It's very random. The messages or information just pop into your head without prior invoking. You can be talking to someone and suddenly you get a message in your mental mailbox, and I get that a lot. Where I could be talking to someone and then the information starts coming in, and I'm not hearing it, the words I'm seeing. I just know stuff. Usually the information is very spontaneous and chillingly accurate, and sometimes you don't know how accurate it is until you've conveyed the message, and then you can see how accurate it is. You sometimes know what someone is going to say prior to them saying it, which is a big problem that Kim and I share.
Yeah.
That we do
This
start.
is true.
We start in sentences sometimes at the same time. So that happens a lot. You receive inspirational ideas and guidance about your life's purpose, usually at a young age. That's like how sometimes you'll have a child that, when I grow up, I'm going to be a veterinarian. That's what I'm going to be, because their life purpose is they're probably more of an empath and they want to be a healer, and that's their life purpose as a healer. So you sometimes get that. Whether or not you like someone from the moment you meet them. That's usually very spot on. I've done that. Well, like, I don't really care for them. I'm going to give them a chance, though. I'm going to, yeah, I still don't like you. So it was spot on. And it's not anything that you could put your finger on. It's not like this person is making derogatory comments or this person is being mean. There's just something. You don't know what, you can't put your finger on it, but there's just something that you just know you don't like them. There's no reason, you just don't know. And then you just know things beyond a reasonable doubt. You just know information. Which can be funny with people because they, well, how'd you know that? I don't know. And
usually,
just
there.
Usually you can't say, well, Spirit told me, or, I just got a message in my inbox. My psychic inbox is full, So that's one thing that that's a harder Claire, I think, to convey to people, because, it's like that old saying, I know what I know what I know, because I just know.
Yes.
Now, I'm sorry I had to say that. No, the way that this particular Claire works is through the crown chakra, which is on the top of your head. That's your internal guidance system, your GPS. Your claircognizance comes from your higher self and your spirit guides. Highly analytical people may find this hard to accept when claircognizance, that's a hard one, information just pops in your head. So if you're very analytical, you're going to dissect that answer or information and pretty much discredit it. So you don't want to use your left brain when you get the message. Use your right brain and try to get that message.
Yeah.
Guilty. Yes, you are guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged.
So how to develop, again, here comes the M word. Daily meditation is a wonderful way to open your mind up for your spiritual gifts. Take notice of which body part experience the feelings when you have an epiphany, when you have that come through. As for me, if I walk into a place that I know there's a ghost, my stomach will flutter. I'll feel it in my stomach. So if you get something in your arms, get tingly, just got to pay attention to that, because, like I said, whenever I get this certain feeling in my stomach, I always know there's a ghost there before. I know that before I feel them. Before I can actually sense that they're there, I'll get that, like, oh, okay, we're going to have a ghost. Or if there's bad energy, I'll get my stomach gets real queasy. Like, this is not good. So just pay attention to your body and see what reactions you get when you get a hit on something, when you get, a message in your inbox. Just kind of, how did you feel when you heard that message? And it just kind of helps with your growth and to take notice. It's just like when you get visual on your clairvoyance, a visual message, that means something. So just kind of pay attention to what's going on with you when you have that experience. I also would recommend trying automatic writing. And I'm not sure if our listeners are familiar what that is, but automatic writing is basically done while meditating, and you have pen in hand, paper in hand, and you're basically going to meditate holding these items. I usually set aside 20 to 30 minutes. You're going to sit quietly with your pen and paper. Before you do this, I would recommend writing your question down, but you don't have to. You could also ask it out loud. I usually have more than one question, so I write it down, and then sit quietly with your eyes closed and write whatever comes into your head. I usually get one words. It's just a one word at a time. Like a sample question, am I on the right spiritual path? Or what guidance do you wish to share with me today? Or how can I make connection to you stronger? Don't ask for the winning lottery numbers. You won't get them.
You won't get them.
You won't get them. Because you're psychic, not a fortune teller. But, get your questions. To me, if I have them already pre-written, it's easier for me to quiet my mind. I did try to ask the questions out loud, and I was getting distracted with asking the question out loud. How should I say it? How should I word it? You know what I'm saying? So it was, to me, taking away from it. But you do what's comfortable for you, whichever works best for you. And I just sit quietly, close your eyes, and write down whatever pops into your head, regardless of what it is. Do that. I know it was my first time doing automatic writing, and I thought, I'm going to go through this, and I'm going to sit quietly, and I'm not going to get nothing. I'm not going to get anything, but I'm going to do this because that's part of the development process, and I'm going to do this. And so I got all situated, and I prefer to meditate, do automatic writing when no one is home. It's no distractions, no noises. I'm good to go. So here I am, sitting in the dark, eyes closed, holding pen and paper, and hoping that when I start writing, it's going to be somewhat legible because I'm not going to pay attention.
Yeah.
Okay, so here I'm ready to go, in the dark, eyes closed, pen and paper, hoping I can read my writing when I'm done. And trust me, your writing is very, when you're not watching what you're doing, it's very sloppy.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there open. I didn't have a question. I couldn't think of a good question in my mind. I thought I had to have a good one, so I don't know. I'm just going to sit here and just whatever you want to tell me. Just, that's good. And then I got communicate. And then I started to see purple and then violet. Those colors I was seeing with my eyes closed. And then the word trust, love, Metatron, and solve. And I just wrote it down, and when I got done, I went, what's Metatron? What the heck's Metatron? Because this was at the beginning of my spiritual journey, and I'm like, okay. So, of course, I had to Google what Metatron was, and I was like, oh my gosh, Metatron is an archangel.
Wow.
And one of the two archangels that actually had been a living person, because all the other archangels have never been living beings, which that's another episode. I'm sorry, but that's another episode on angels. Excited about that one. But so I'm like, so Metatron is, if you have a Christian background, is Enoch from the Bible, or a Jewish background. It would be Enoch. He has a twin, Sandalphon. And they were both ascended to archangels. So I'm like, oh, wow, this is kind of cool. And then I'm reading on, and two of his colors are purple and violet.
Oh, wow.
And you've heard of sacred, you may or may not have heard of sacred geometry. Metatron is sacred geometry. He is behind the sacred geometry. And so basically, I had a great message while I was doing automatic writing. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, two, three, four, 5 words. Communicate, trust, love, Metatron, and solve. So how I interpret that is, I have Metatron helping me with my abilities, and he's with me, which is great. And he's going to help solve issues for me. He's going to give me the knowledge. He's going to help me. And of course, violet is the color from your 7th chakra, your crown.
Your crown.
Yeah. So that was one example of automatic writing. I had another example, which I'm sorry if I'm getting too wordy with my examples, but here we go. I have another example where I would go every year to a paranormal convention because metaphysical stones are huge in the paranormal world. And I always have a very successful time at this. And this particular paranormal convention last year had some changes. They changed location to a haunted college, which was fun. And then they added...
And happens to be, as a side note, where I got married.
Yes. Of course you would get married at a haunted location.
Right.
Why not? And, the energy did not feel good at the show. It was very, very, very dark. And that's just not my energy. I'm not saying it's bad. That's just not my energy. Because I'm a light worker. So I'm more working the light. So I was having to clear my area I was smudging all the time, just to keep my energy good. And it was very exhausting, which usually is exhausting because dealing with people do drain you as when you're using your psychic abilities. And there are many psychics there doing readings. I was not doing readings. I was there to sell my metaphysical jewelry.
Yes.
So and I had a friend that did not go because her spirit guides told her to stay home because of the energy shift. And she is also a light worker. And so when I got back, I had, written out my questions, and I asked, I had 3 questions that I had written down. And one of them was, should I go to that particular convention, which that convention is not even close to where I live.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, so it was a ways to go. And then I like to play with lasers, so I wanted to upgrade my laser. And that was another question, should I do it at this time? And I forgot what the third question was. But when it gave me the answers, but not in order, which I thought were funny. At first, I thought that was funny. But it made more sense because if I was doing it myself subconsciously, I would have answered everything in order.
Well, yeah.
So I think that was Spirit's way of answering the questions in the order that they thought was important. And also to show that I wasn't doing it myself, that they were answering it. And I did this was the one time it wasn't one word, it said stay close to home.
Yeah.
And so I opted to not do the paranormal convention this year because Spirit told me to stay close to home, and there's a reason I need to be here. May not have anything to do with the convention. It just might be the time frame of what's going on in my life during that period, which it'll be in June. I'll keep you posted.
Yeah. Please do.
Yeah. So if nothing happened, it had to do with don't go to the paranormal convention. But that was one of the answers I got, was stay close to home. And that was a lengthy one, considering I usually just get one word. But the more that you do automatic writing, the more you're going to get comfortable with it, and the more communication you will get.
And because you're ready to listen and to hear. Yes.
If I write the question down, I'm going to be serious about it, and it's not an open-ended. It's a precise question. It's not a vague question that can mean almost anything. And a funny story, it said no to upgrading the laser, and this I think was September of last year when I did this particular. Automatic writing session. And so I didn't. And then in November, right around Thanksgiving, I'd done a craft show and did very, very well. And I had, some extra funds. So I thought, oh, I'm going to buy that one laser that I wanted to get, because now it was not going to be a problem. I felt it was time to do it. So I ordered the laser, and the company was doing this, hey, if you buy today, or from now until this particular time, Christmas Day, we're going to do a drawing, and if we draw your invoice, your laser's free. And I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. Okay.
Yeah,
I just want
right,
this. I just
sure.
want this laser. And I, ordered this laser and paid for it. And Christmas Day, I get an email. They drew my invoice, and I got it for free. So
Amazing.
So not buying the laser in originally in September, I waited to the funds appeared. I'm like, oh, the funds are now here. It was exactly what I needed to pay for the laser in full. So I bought it, and I remember I sent the email to you, Kim, like, is this a scam?
Yeah.
They emailed me and said,
here.
is this a scam? Because they told me that they drew my invoice, and they drew 5 invoices, and I was one of 5. So I was very excited, and that's where listening to the answers you get and trusting in the answers and timing are perfect. Random story, I know, but that was just to me a good example of manifesting, maybe, and timing.
Automatic writing.
Automatic writing. But it was about listening to the message I got, because I didn't want to wait. I wanted that laser now, but it was like, well, no, they're telling me it's not the right time. There's a reason, so I'll wait. And it may not seem like waiting when you think 2 months later I did it, but 2 months later I now had the funds from a very successful show. And people were buying things from me left and right. Like, hey, can you bring this stuff to work? I want to take a look at it because I'm going to do some Christmas shopping. Okay. So Spirit put into place a plan. And I honored the answer no.
Yes, that's
And
right.
then when it was time, then Spirit made it happen.
Yeah.
And I got my money back.
And you got your money back.
Even better. Even better.
Bonus.
So, yes. Bonus. Thanks. And I think that's very important with my thanks comment. Always to thank your spirit guides after you do any meditating with them or any working with them. I always thank for the message. Be thankful for the work you do with them and the work they're doing with you, and you will get more interaction when you're working from a thankful heart. So always thank them for helping you and giving you messages. So always in your prayers and meditation with thank you, or thank you, or however you want to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Now, solar plexus is the psychic muscle you're going to work out when you're connecting with the claircognizance. So you want to practice and strengthen your solar plexus. So that's very important. So we're not going to go over all the examples again like we went over earlier in the podcast, but maybe, Kim, you could put some things in the notes and on Facebook.
Sure.
And we have a daily affirmation again, and on this particular one. And that affirmation is, I acknowledge that I'm open to the gifts of claircognizance. I allow my guides to assist me with the inner knowing I know that I possess. I trust and believe that I will be guided in the most positive and enlightened way possible.
That's good.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Psychic Bent. Please join us next time when we wrap up this series with the Clairs Part 4, Clairsentience, Clairalience, and Clairgustance. May your light shine bright. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast, Psychic Bent. If you enjoyed Psychic Bent, please like, follow, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to Psychic Bent. We can be reached on Facebook at Psychic Bent Podcast. Our email address is psychicbent1@gmail.com. May your light shine bright.